I mean, it's just super important, especially for people that are speaking out against authoritarian governments, to have this tool that is uncensorable, that they can continue to send value to each other and organize protests. I mean, it's incredibly important to teach them how to use this tool because it is new to them. And you guys have both been in countries that we talked about that have suffered through hyperinflation, mismanagement of their currencies. I was wondering if you could speak to the feeling there of the people, of the populace, of how you felt that inflation has affected them, their behavior, just the general mood. Jimmy, I don't know if you could speak to like any stories or people that you spoke to while you were traveling to these regions, just to kind of talk about the effects of inflation, maybe the deeper effects.
Well, so one of the saddest things in Argentina that I saw was, they just to give you some context. So I told you the day I left, I exchanged 314 Argentinian pesos to a dollar. As of a couple of days ago, it was now 690 Argentinian pesos to a dollar. So that's less than a year. It's like 9 months. It's more than doubled, and this is the blue market rate. Now, if you're living in an economy like that, it's obviously like kind of a crazy, crazy deal. I would go on a taxi or something like that, and it would cost like a couple hundred pesos sometimes, which is like less than a dollar. How the heck are these people making any money? The transportation system hasn't caught up with all of the inflation, so it costs like 10 pesos to go like 7 stops or something like that, which is like 3 cents or something ridiculously cheap.
Hmm.
You can think about how crazy that makes everything. But the saddest thing I saw was you go to all of these tourist places, right? I'm traveling with my family, I'm hanging out, and I'm going to a tourist place, and there are these people with wads of pesos, and they hold it in their hand and just kind of go like this, right? And they say cambio, cambio, which means I change, I change. They are looking for a kind tourist to change their pesos for dollars because they can't get it at the bank, right? The capital controls that you're talking about
Yeah.
is what prevents them from being able to change to something that is more stable. And it's something that they were doing for hours, right? Like think about spending 4 hours just at a tourist stop so you could have some savings vehicle. And it is extremely sad because if these people like just knew about Bitcoin, and there's a lot of people there that do, like the WhatsApp guy, I text her or whatever, they would be able to change it for them. Just give them lightning payments for their cash, which they're going to change out soon anyway. That is what really saddened me, because it was like and these are people that were obviously not well off, that could afford to sit there for 4 hours, saying cambio, cambio, and trying to get people to, get change money for them. The other thing that you see in a lot of these countries is like a horrific amount of rent seeking. And these countries get to a hyperinflationary stage for a reason. So in Lebanon, for example, what you see is that the state has control of the utilities, and what starting in around 2000, or I think 2017 even, just things weren't working as much. So you get blackouts for a few hours and so on. What I noticed when I was there was it had gotten so bad that at night you'd get maybe 1 hour of streetlights, right? So like the entire place is dark. It's like hard to drive or whatever. But what that's led to is every building now has its own generator, because the state isn't providing any electricity or any reliable electricity. And the reason is because there are all of these bureaucrats that get hired by the government to get their votes. So as a way to like dish out political favors, they give them these jobs where they don't do anything. The backstop to all of that ends up being sort of the US dollar, at least in Lebanon, because what happens is, they keep printing money, and you get into hyperinflation. just people don't want Lebanese pounds anymore. They want dollars way more. And there are enough dollars in circulation where that's actually feasible. And the Cantillon juice that you can squeeze out by printing more money gets to be less and less. And they've kind of run out of Cantillon juice at this point. There are all these government bureaucrats and that keep asking for raises, and they get them, but then it lasts like maybe a couple of months before they have to ask for new raises again. These people have to like go get second jobs. They weren't doing anything anyway, so they have to get like a second job. So it's like this weird like conglomeration of incentives that go awry. And this is true in every hyperinflating country. You got into the situation as a result of really bad government management, usually some sort of buying of votes through some sort of patronage or something like that. So like for a lot of the people that are seeing it, it's kind of like, okay, well, kind of good riddance. They're not reliable. We're able to kind of do things for ourselves. And that's what I've seen. And in a sense, those places tend to be a little bit more pleasant to visit as long as you don't have to deal with the government bureaucracy, because in a sense, it's all market driven at that point, right? Like you have electricity, you have the things that you want. It's if you need to touch the government at all, that's horrible. But everything else tends to be a lot better because it tends to be more market driven. They're desperate for dollars, so they will treat you very nicely, especially as a tourist that has dollars. Come shop at our place. They make things nice. It's kind of weird, but that it's counterintuitive, but that's what ends up happening.
Yeah, shall I add to that how it's in Zimbabwe? Yeah. So it's very depressing actually. And I think you also get the feel with people. I mean, if your currency is depreciating that much and you basically daily, the first question in the morning is always, what's the rate today? So how much do I get for my US dollar that I have or my Zimbabwe dollar? Because the interesting thing, if you have hyperinflation in the Zimbabwe dollar, you also have US dollar prices increasing, despite the fact that they should actually stay the same. Because, I mean, yes, we have inflation in the US dollar, but not that much that it changes one day to the next. And so I think a lot of people also take the inflation as an advantage to use their own to raise their own prices in US dollars. So there is a sense of depression around. You're helpless. You're absolutely helpless. What do you want to do if you only earn Zimbabwe dollar? And so people, they buy stuff immediately. So as soon as you get your monthly loan your money income every month, or as soon as you're able to hustle to sell something and to buy something else, you buy it immediately. You don't wait. So if you need a computer, for instance, and you see a good offer, you buy it immediately, because first, the price is going up the next day. And secondly, you don't know if it's going to be there the next day, because it's also not that case that you have lots of things to choose from. You don't have this overflow of goods like we have it in our countries. And so also to that example that Jimmy had from people who wanted to exchange their money, what I've experienced is we were in Mashwingo, which is a town in south of Zimbabwe. I hope I say it correctly and it's not in the north. And I've been there quite some time. And we went to the local Pick and Pay, to the supermarket. And there was a long line of people outside standing and waiting. And I wasn't sure what's going on. So why did they not go inside? And then I realized they came up to us and asked us, do you want to use my card to pay inside the Pick and Pay? And the thing is, you can pay in US dollars or in Zimbabwe dollar at the Pick and Pay. So if we take their card, we are paying, they put a lot of trust in us, because they basically give us their banking card and we go inside, pay for our goods, come outside and give those people the US dollars that we otherwise would have used to pay for in the Pick and Pay. That's how money exchange is working there on the streets. And another example, also in Harare, for instance, you have to pay for the municipal water infrastructure. So you have a monthly bill to pay. But people haven't gotten any municipal water for years. And if, then it's so toxic that you can't use it. A friend of mine told me he once put municipal water into his fish pond and all the fish died. So that's the quality and the service that you have, but still you have to pay for it. Then there are lots of potholes. I've never seen such bad road infrastructure as in Zimbabwe. And also the example of how politicians basically buy votes. When you go to the countryside, and it's pre-election time, you always see trucks coming and people surrounding these trucks, and the people get seeds for free or oil or things like that from the parties, the leading parties, yes, that they vote for them. And the last anecdote or example, which I had to learn as well. So you can go into a shop and you have two tills maybe. You have a US dollar till and you have one for Zimbabwean dollar. And if you pay in US dollar, there are no coins. You only have the $1, $5, $10, $20 banknotes. So if you, for instance, pay something that costs $1.50, you get basically nothing back. What you get is like small goodies, like a chewing gum or a small bottle of water, or you get a voucher where they write down, okay, you're good for 50 cents. So it's really, people find ways to make it work. But to be honest, I don't know how people are able to live their lives there.
Yeah. Well, it seems like corruption of the money leads to corruption of everything else, corruption of the government. And then it's difficult to resist that corrupt government when the infrastructure is completely broken, right? Like you said, like Jimmy, you said, like the streetlights are only on for an hour. There's a bunch of potholes. There's not good electricity there, reliable electricity. And so it's really difficult to resist, I would imagine, those corrupt governments when there's no infrastructure in place because the money's been broken. And I think one of the things that I think about with everything that you just said was this idea of high time preference. When you can't think of the future, you can't dream longer into the future about like maybe a job you want, or maybe you want to have kids because you're just trying to survive. And I think that's really the hardest part to grapple with when you hear these stories about people, is that they can't dream bigger, right? They can't plan for the future because their money's broken. And that's what Bitcoin aims to solve, right? That Bitcoin is a solution to debasement. That's what Satoshi said right from the beginning.